In this video, I'm going to be giving you my comprehensive framework that has helped me find the maximum level of meaning in life. I'm not saying this is the end-all be-all method to trying to do it, but this is what actually really helped me. And I've been developing this framework for around the past 9 months, and I'll get into how I came to everything. But first, let me point out the obvious. I know I normally make videos about how to make money online and giving actual practical methods that you can use to make money. So if you're thinking, well, why are you posting this video if your channel is supposed to be about how to make money? The answer is because why is actually a more important question. It wasn't me, it was actually Nietzsche who said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." And so even if your only goal in life is to make money and you want to figure out how to do that, having a strong why is really important to that end of if and how you're going to end up even making that money. So with that being said, here's actually how you find your why in life and in the pursuit of entrepreneurship. So the first thing to realize is that the most dangerous assumptions in life are the things that you take to be so true that you don't even think to question. And this is one of those areas where a lot of people never even question the types of things that we do. And I didn't realize any of this until I watched the movie Dead Poets Society. And I think you guys should just watch it. I don't need to get into the whole plot. But basically, it's a setup where there's a lot of these kids at a boarding school, and a lot of them are going to go into high-paying jobs that are very necessary to sustain life. So like medicine, doctors, that type of thing. And so a lot of people go into that and value that without ever questioning a more important thing, which is, yes, these disciplines are all there and all very important to sustain life. And that's just assume that that's important. But the only way that that can be important is if there's a reason to sustain life. And that's where other disciplines like poetry or art or beauty or love actually come into play. His point was basically you can develop all these crazy ways to sustain life, but if you have nothing that you're living for, all of these things that you made to sustain your life are actually useless. And so that's basically at the core of my belief in finding meaning in life, which is at the base of things, the only thing that's really important is what you live for. It's not how long can you live or how healthy you can live. It's why do you stay alive? Because you really could just end things. Like, you don't have to stay alive. You don't have to take life-saving medication even if it's offered to you. And by the way, a lot of people actually die for that very reason. So a lot of people are given medication that can save their lives, but they have to take it, 2 times a day, and they don't take it at the prescribed times, and therefore either get sick again or even ultimately end up dying because people are really bad at giving themselves medicine. And that's not a problem of us not having the tools to save someone's life. It's a problem of people not having something to live for. So ultimately, the root of why we wake up in the morning is having something to live for. So if you're not solving this problem first, solving the problem of how you sustain life is a secondary, less necessary problem. Now, when I realized from this movie that this is actually the most important thing in life, I started acting differently. So, for example, if you guys didn't know, I'm in college right now, and from that point on, any class that was not easy enough for me to get a good grade in, that really required me to, on a daily basis, do stuff that I didn't get excited to do the next day, and that I wasn't looking forward to, and that made me really unhappy, I stopped caring about those assignments and stressing about getting a good grade on that stuff because I realized if these things don't excite me and I don't want to live for these things, then they can get cut out. Now, obviously, there's like a practical element to this, like how much will one bad grade affect your future, etc., etc. But my point there really was that's a whole mode of living that I know for my life won't excite me and won't give me a why should I live. And when I ask myself, what do I live for? I know the answer to that isn't getting a good grade on a bullshit exam in a bullshit class that I don't really care about. So that was kind of the first principle that I uncovered in unlocking what I think is really the best approach to finding meaning in life. The second thing I uncovered was a book from an author named Simon Sinek. He's a genius author, writes a lot about like business and entrepreneurial pursuits and really uncovering the why behind things. And so his book is called The Infinite Game. And in the book, it basically talks about the fact that there's 2 types of games in life. There's finite games. These are games with rules, known players, and a known way to win. So an example of a finite game would be like most sports games that you know. So a game of basketball is a finite game. Everyone knows the rules, everyone knows the players, and there's a way to win and a way to lose. Then you have infinite games. And infinite games have dynamically changing rules, known and unknown players, and the point of the game is to keep the game going. So there's no winning or losing an infinite game. The point of the game is to keep playing the game. So let me give you an example of an infinite game. Your career. You can't win your career. There's no winning or losing. The rules of your career, of what you ought do and what jobs you ought take, are not set in stone. They're always changing. And you're going to encounter people on your pursuit of your career, some of the players which you know and some of which you don't know. So there's a lot of infinite games in life. For example, your career was just one of them, but you also have things like your relationships, a marriage, your education. And what I came to realize after talking about these concepts with my roommate, who's also my best friend, is basically that all of those different things that I mentioned right there, like career, your marriage, whatever it is, that are all infinite games, are actually all just subsets of the ultimate infinite game, which is life. So life itself, your conscious existence, is the ultimate infinite game. It's the game where you can never win or you can never lose life. The only thing that you can possibly do is keep the game going. And so if any of you guys played Minecraft is the perfect analogy here. Because let's say you started off a single player survival world. Can you win that survival world? Nope. Can you lose the survival world? If you're not playing on ultra hardcore, the answer is also no. So the only game that you can actually play in that game is figuring out how to set up your world in a way that you want to keep playing the game. There's no winning or losing. The only ever point of a survival world could be to keep playing the survival world. So what your responsibility is in that survival world is to figure out ways to make yourself want to keep playing the game. Otherwise, the survival world ends and you've lost the point of the game. And that's really the core thing, which is that with life, and same with the survival world, it's literally impossible to lose, but the only way that you can lose on a technicality is if you forget the point of the game. And the point of the game is to keep playing and to make the game interesting enough that you actually want to keep playing every single day. So for all of the people in the world who have crafted a life for themselves, but have never reflected on the fact of whether they actually are excited to look forward to doing whatever life they've crafted for themselves the next morning, if you haven't even thought about that, you are losing the game of life on a technicality because you forgot the only thing that you can do, which is craft a life for yourself in a game that you want to keep playing. And if you forgot that the point of the game is to keep playing, and so you haven't even looked for ways to make life worth living, you lost the point of the game. If you tried to win life, you have lost the point of the game. If you were worried about losing life, you lost the point of the game. And if you forgot to go to sleep and wake up excited about playing life the next day, you have lost the purpose of the game, which is to keep playing. And so to just expand this analogy one step further, life isn't actually like a Minecraft single player survival world. It's like a multiplayer survival world. So with that frame in mind, the one sentence that I would give to what is the meaning of life is, the meaning of life is to work with others to craft games that you all go to sleep excited to wake up the following day to play that game voluntarily. And now I'm finally going to loop this back into entrepreneurship and make the actual steps on going about finding your meaning a little bit more practical. But understand, I know like this is a long tangent. This took me like 9 months to develop my thinking on this and my understanding of this and coming up with a framework that actually works for me. So I'm condensing all of that time and all of the experiences I had that made me think that way into this one video. But yeah, so life is like a multiplayer survival world. The only way you can lose a multiplayer survival world is if you don't work with the other players in the game to try to craft things to do in the game that you all want to keep doing. Because once one or multiple of you no longer want to keep playing, the game itself collapses. And again, you didn't lose the infinite game, but you lost the point of it. So if you now notice the way that I live my life based on this philosophy that I have, I actually live the things I'm talking about. Every single night before I go to sleep, I'm evaluating, is whatever's going on tomorrow something that actually excites me and that I want to wake up to? Once again, I'm going to give a slight caveat to the people who are like, well, what if you have a, blah, 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 blah. Basically, yes, if you have one thing here and there that you're not looking forward to the next day, that can happen, and that still happens to me. That's not the point of what I'm talking about. The point of what I'm talking about is on a consistent basis, are you actually crafting your life in a way where, in general, and in a way that's sustainable, and over the long term, you actually look forward to most nights? When you go to sleep, are you like, I want to wake up the next day and play the game of life? If you go to sleep and most of the time you're not excited to wake up and play the game of life the next day, to me, that would be considered a failure at finding one's meaning in life. And first of all, the recognition of that failure is the most important part, because most people don't even think about any of this and thus are only focused on sustaining life but never even questioned why live. So that's the first practical question. Now, luckily, I found things in my life that do really excite me to wake up every single morning when I go to sleep. Now, part of that comes from the fact that I knew to look out for that because I developed a philosophy where that became my most important thing. But the other part of that is honestly probably just luck. Like, I just ended up finding entrepreneurship, and progressing on that is one of the things that I actually love doing every single day. Like every day, like when I go to sleep, I can't wait to wake up and figure out how to make businesses make more money. That's just what it is. But after doing some reflection with my friend Cooper, I realized that there are some things that I realized that I did do that I think can be applied to most people. So let's say you've taken everything that I've said in this video so far. You go, okay, I agree with your arguments. I think it makes sense that the most important thing to me should be that in general, when I go to sleep, that I'm actually excited to wake up to play the game of life every day. But I'm not. So how can I go about actually exciting myself to wake up the next morning every single day? And here's my answer to that. Find things that society thinks is normal, or that pretty much everyone in society accepts, that you recognize to be stupid or dumb. And if you think about it, this is exactly what my channel is. So in my head with this channel, I went, why is there no popular make money online content creator who actually just shows how much money they're making? Like, surely you can do this, and this isn't gonna collapse all the money that you make and screw everything over in your life. You could just say how much money you're making while you're doing the side hustles that you talk about. And what you have to notice is I didn't go with this great value at first. What actually really happened is that I recognized the stupidity and then therefore turned that into the opportunity. So this is something that Alex Hormozi always talks about, by the way. He'll say, if you're trying to find the positive things or the way to make things work, the human brain is actually much better at finding negative things. Because in evolutionary terms, it was way more important to prevent negativity, which could result in death, rather than search for positivity, which all it could do is make you better off, but isn't going to save you from immediately dying. So what you can do to take advantage of that evolutionary fact is look at all the ways that something wouldn't work and then just reverse them. So if you wanted to figure out how to make a successful business, for example, you would say, what are all the things I would do to completely fuck up a business, and then just do the opposite. So for example, if you wanted to destroy a business, the first thing you might do is not work on it at all. And now you know, well, if I want to have a successful business, all I have to do is take the reverse of not work on it at all, which is really easy to come up with, which is just work on it all the time. Anyway, yeah, this is the concept that I use though to find the things that I found exciting in life. So once again, with this channel, the way that it started out was I looked online, I saw that somehow no one was posting videos on how they made money and actually showing their personal finances. And I was like, that's stupid. You can do that. I know that's like a societal norm and it's bad to do, but I was like, I could do that. And I think people should do that, and they have a responsibility to do that. So I'm going to do that. And the positive value was actually driven by seeing a negative lack in society. But I think this isn't just true for my channel, it's true for a lot of the things that actually bring me excitement in life. So another big example of this is the fact that I'm pursuing entrepreneurship altogether. This came from my ideas basically on conformity and the fact that I knew that there had to be a better option than the route that most people were taking. So one thing that I know I'm not a fan of at all is conformity. I've literally seen firsthand how conformity can cause people to make really, really bad decisions just because the majority go to it, even though there's no good reasoning behind what they do. So that was already something I didn't believe in. And so that drove me to fix that problem by inspiring non-conformity, in this case through entrepreneurship. But the second aspect to it was everyone around me was on path to get a normal job, paying a normal medium to high-end affluent salary at most. And I went, nope. There's no way that that's the only way to make money and that there's not a different, better, superior method to make money from that. Now, once again, if you notice, that's me spotting a lack. That's all of these people doing a thing that I'm like, that can't be the best option. There has to be a better option. And since then, a huge part of my life has been pursuing those better options and figuring out how to make it work. And that's what's really brought me meaning. So the full steps on how to find meaning in life, I think, are genuinely in that order. And after listening to my arguments, hopefully you find this convincing, but you have to, 1, recognize that sustaining life is completely unimportant if you don't know what you live for. 2, recognize that life is an infinite game and you can't win. The only thing you can do is keep the game going, and the only way to lose at keeping the game going is to forget that that's the point of the game. From that point, you should figure out that the only thing that's really important is to find stuff that excites you to wake up the next day. And then 3, the last step to actually find those things that excite you, look for things in society that you think are stupid and you think you actually could do something to try to fix them. For me, it was the fact that no one was hopping on YouTube and showing their income and showing how they're actually making the money that they're talking about. I thought that transparency was stupid and that you could be a better make money online influencer by being transparent. And so I went and I did that. That was a problem that I knew I could solve, and I saw the stupidity beforehand. And so look for things like that. Maybe for you, it's not about entrepreneurship, but it's about the fact that so many people aren't open-minded. So how do you make people more open-minded? Well, that's a lifelong journey. Another infinite game, by the way, because you can't win the game of making people open-minded. You can only make them more open-minded. It's a game that you can literally dedicate your life to because you saw the problem that you thought was very stupidly obvious that for some reason didn't occur to other people to fix. So there, you found the negative thing. People aren't open-minded. You found the positive value that you can do from that, which is make people more open-minded, and then you find creative ways to play that infinite game and work with others to make a game that you all want to keep playing, which in this case would be that you all want to make people more open-minded and have ways that everyone can contribute to that game. Anyways, I know this wasn't directly about making money online, but again, I think this concept is much more important than any how to make money that you're going to watch, because if you don't know why you're making money, what is it really worth? So yeah, with that being said, that was my take. If you support the mission of transparency, consider leaving a like on this video and subscribing. And truly one of the best ways to support me is to actually join my Discord with 18,000 members and drop your best money making sauce. As always, thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video, and peace.